Okay, now let's take a look at the case number 2. The example for the case number 2 is, I think it's given by /20. So I'm going to show you the next example. The next example is /20. This is case number 2 of the Class A subnetting. And actually in this book, they don't really call it case 1, case 2, and case 3, right? They don't really call them that way, but this is just my own way to classifying, right? I think, yeah. So it's probably, I mean, it's up to you. You don't have to really, I mean, once you get used to it, you don't really think about the cases once you are really used to this, calculations, right? But for now, I just use case 1, case 2, case 3, okay? And so what is given is the, okay, so let me just write this down. What is given is 10.0.0.0, right? This is case number 2. And because the reason that it's case number 2 is that it's given /20, right? So /20 means actually it's 255.255.240.0. Okay, that's a /22 /20. And you know that this is what the previous. Okay, so I'm gonna use this blue one because we are now talking about case number 2. Case number 2, right? And so for the case number 2, right? Let me just redraw. I mean, it's previously, right? Okay, so let me just go back to the previous case. For the case number 1, right? We know that it's, okay, for the case number 1, we know that it's the x is somewhere here. X really like ends in this area, right? Second octet. And then this is my y. So that's a case number 1, right? And case number 2, we know, okay, case number 2, we know that this is the network portions, same thing. And for the case number 2, my x is really ends in somewhere in the third octet, right? So this is my third octet, right? And then this is my x, and then this is my y, right? So we know that x plus y is what? 24, right? And then for the 240, right? So 255.255.240.0, right? So what is my x? So for the 240, we know that this is what? We know that 1, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, right? So what is my x? Any volunteer?
Say 12?
Yes, because this one is 8, right? And then we use a 4, right? So basically 8 plus 4 is 12. So the x is 12. And obviously its y is 12. So we know that 2 to the x, that means this number of subnets, right? And then 2 to the y minus 2 is number of usable host IP address for each subnet, right? Okay, so the most important question is, what is a valid subnet IP address, right? So that's the most important question that we should answer. And then I'm going to use the green. So this is what? This is third octet, right? So we have to really focus on the third octet. So in case number 2, we have to really focus on the third octet, right? Because subnetting, initially the subnetting is performed on in the third octet. Case number 2. For the case number 1, you know that we have to really focus on the second octet, right? But case number 2, we have to really focus on the third octet. Okay? Having said that, we use the formula, and that formula should apply on the third octet. So formula is 256 minus 240, right? What is it? 16, right? So we know that third octet will change, right? And then like in the multitude of what? 16, right? So it's going to be 0, 16, and then 32. And when you add 16, I think it's 48, right? And then what? If you add another 16, what is it? 4. Is that 64, right? But anyway, just keep going, right? So I'm going to write the IP address, so 10.0.0.0. So this is like my obviously the valid the first subnet IP address, right? The first subnet. And you know that this is my network positions, right? Oops. And I know that this is my network positions. Oops. This is my network positions. Okay. So I know that 10 is going to be same. And then first I have to what? Focus on what? Third octet, right? So I know that it's going to be 10.0. And what is my next one? What is it? I use a 6, right? This is my third octet, by the way. I used this already. And what is my next one? 16.0, right? Oops, you know what? I need some space. So 10.0 dot what? 16.0, right? And we know we have to focus on third octet, right? Third octets. So this is third octets. Okay, so this is my second subnet. So any volunteer? What is the next one? Third subnet IP address. Any volunteer? 10 dot what? 0 dot what?
32.
32. Thank you. Okay. So here's my question. What is the okay, this could be tricky. What is my broadcast address of the first subnet? So broadcast address of the first subnet, right there. So one less than the second subnet IP address, right? One less.
10.0 or 10.0.15.65.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay. And then obviously I can ask you the broadcast address of the second subnet. It's 0 dot 1 less, right? 31.255. Okay, so any question? Basically that's the idea, right? Of course, the last usable host IP address is 15.254. The last usable host IP address of second subnet is 31.254, right? And etc. And then first usable host IP address for the second subnet is 0.16.1. Okay, by the way, this is the idea, okay? The idea is this. So we had, without subnetting, right? We have like big, gigantic apple barrel, right? 1. But with the subnetting, right? I can divide this into the this area, right? This small network. with the same size. By the way, the size of this small network is really same, right? So that means for this one, right? So here's a small network, and then the network address is 10.0.0.0, right? So if I just draw this network, okay, so this is like a local area network, right? I'm gonna redraw this one, and then we have a we have a router, right? Actually, this is a local area network, so that means we have a switch. And then we have what? We have a lot of hosts, like the devices, right, in the local area network. And then the network address of this LAN is, for example, 10.0.0.0, right? And then there is a probably gateway router, right? This gateway router will be connected through this switch. And then this gateway router has Ethernet card right there, right? So typically, the first usable IP address is assigned to this gateway IP router, this interface. So 10.0.0.1, right? The first usable host IP address. And the broadcast IP address of this local area network is what? 10.0.15.255, right? That's a broadcast address of this LAN. And then the second usable host IP address is going to be 10.0.0.2, right? And assuming that this is the last usable host, I mean, this is like, let's say, last host, then I can assign IP address, right? The following IP address, which is 10.0.15.254, right? Of course, there's many devices. And then this is going to be in internet. And then we can create how many of these? How many? 2 to the x. So 2 to the 12, which is a huge number. I think it's maybe 4,000. I don't know. I mean, 2 to the 10 is 1,000, 2,000, maybe 4,000, or approximately. We can create 4,000 of them, roughly. 4,000 of this. Without subnetting, we can only have one big network, right? But with the subnetting, how many of them? We can create about 4,000 of these networks with the subnetting. Okay? So any question for the case number 2? Okay, so let me just let's take a break. Okay, let's take a 1-minute break.